Welcome everyone to 10 everyday accessibility features that everyone can use in Windows and Office 365. We just have a couple of quick slides to go through. My name is Brett Gilbertson, by the way, and I'll be here to host this session. A couple of quick slides just to share with you, just acknowledging the traditional owners and also our code of conduct for the session and for the Microsoft 365 event. We have a competition running and we're in week 4. This is the QR code that you can scan to enter the competition. I'll show it again at the end of the session, but please feel free to join in with that competition and hopefully you win something. All right. So today, as I said, we're going to talk about accessibility features in Office 365, but we're going to talk about tools that everybody can use. Now, for as long as I can remember, ease of access tools have been built into Office, well, in fact, into Windows. For example, did you ever accidentally open up the narrator on your PC? Or did you ever see the sticky keys prompt come up on your computer? Now, in the past, when people talked about accessibility, I would have thought about those tools. They were tucked away in the control panel somewhere, and I never really had any use for them. But today, when I think about accessibility, I'm really thinking about far more. I'm thinking in broader terms. Now, there are amazing tools for those who are disadvantaged, for sure, and they're great tools. They're built into Windows 10, people with hearing, vision, and mobility impairments. But when I think about those accessibility features in broader terms, I wonder if we really examine ourselves and maybe the people around us. I'm sure that you can actually find someone that has some subtle access issues that create barriers for them in the way that they use technology. Think about maybe your grandparents or your parents. Do they struggle with internet banking? What about someone in the family who's had a minor stroke? Or maybe they have ADHD or autism? Or perhaps even yourself. Do you struggle just to manage the overwhelming distraction of the modern world? Well, I'm not an expert in disability or accessibility at all, but over the last few years as a Windows and devices trainer, I've become far more aware of access issues, and I wanted to share with you what I've found. Now, personally, I don't fit into a disability category, but the tools that I'll share with you today have helped me and my family, and I think it's important to share with others too. Many people do find it hard to speak up when they have accessibility needs. And if they did speak up, they'd probably get really sick of repeating themselves all of the time. So it's on us to be inclusive and to think about access by default. So today I'm going to share 10 tools that I've discovered and I use on a regular basis. Now, by the way, Microsoft's mission statement, I think it's a really noble mission statement for a big company. It's to empower every person and organization to achieve more. So in order to empower everyone, we need to get them access. And by the way, here is Microsoft's accessibility website. If you can spell the word accessibility, you can just type in microsoft.com/accessibility and you'll get access to a lot of the tools that I'm talking about today. There's some really good content on that website that you can share with other people as well. So first up in the accessibility tools that I want to share with you is a tool called Focus Assist. Now I'm going to come and show you how to use this tool. But no doubt, like me, you're thinking that more devices, more apps, more data equals more distractions. So this tool is for everyone, and perhaps even more so for those on the autism spectrum or with ADHD, but again, for everyone. This book here, a great author called Cal Newport, said that to produce at your peak level, you need to work for extended periods with full concentration on a single task, free from distraction. Now, I say that you simply can't do that if you're being interrupted by the arrival of each new email. So as a solution to this, in Windows, we have a tool called the Focus Assist. Now, to access Focus Assist, if you have a touchscreen device, you can swipe in from the right to bring out the Action Center in Windows, or down in the bottom right-hand corner here, you can click on this little button to bring out the Action Center. In here, you can expand out the tool set that you have at the bottom to access different settings. And one of the settings, I've got it turned on right here, right now, is called Focus Assist. I can turn it to priority mode or alarms only mode, And in both of those modes, the Outlook pop-ups that I get from the bottom right hand of the screen will be suppressed so that I'm not getting distracted every 5 seconds with a pop-up. I was sitting next to a lady at a government office up in Canberra last year, and every 5 seconds sitting next to her, she got a bing, new email appeared, and that was distracting to me, and I can't imagine how she was getting things done with those constant interruptions. So in order to do our best work, we need to manage those interruptions. So that's my first tool to share with you, is Focus Assist. This is an accessibility tool that can help absolutely everybody, and you probably should turn it on all the time. The second tool that I wanted to share with you is just called Focus, and it's a tool in Word. So I'm going to switch over to my Word document that we see on the screen here, and you'll see that right down the bottom of the screen here in Word, there's a button there called Focus. I can also click on View at the top on the ribbon and click on Focus. And Focus is another great tool, because when I look at a program like Word, it's quite complex software. There's so many toolbars, there's ribbons, there's all sorts of stuff going on. I just want to focus on the things that I'm typing, and all of that is just a distraction. Using Word Focus, I can get rid of all of that and just have a nice clear document on the screen without all the clutter. If I want to access the toolbar, I can just simply hover over the 3 dots at the top there and the toolbar will reappear. I can press Escape or click on the button down the bottom to exit focus mode. So that's my second tip for you, is use Focus in Word. The third tool is an amazing tool. It's called Immersive Reader, and it started out as an add-in for OneNote called Learning Tools. It's now found across the whole Office and Windows spectrum in various forms. The Immersive Reader basically takes text and presents it to the user as a more readable, understandable format. Perhaps that means using a larger font, double line spacing, a different background color, or seeing fewer lines of text on the page at once. So let me first demonstrate that over in Microsoft Word. So here's an example document that I've got in Microsoft Word. If I click on View, I've got a button here to open up a new toolbar called Immersive Reader. And you can see that the text on the page has changed. It's a little bit easier to read. We've got a page color applied. We can set the column width here, and we can have a focus mode set so that we can just see one line of text at a time or multiple lines of text. In Word here, I can even break the words up into syllables so that you can see that this tool has a particular education focus. There's also a read aloud feature. So if I click on this text here and press read aloud, hopefully you heard that, hopefully the sound came through there, but the point is I'm having the text read to me and I can see each word highlighted as it's read to me. Now, it's a little bit primitive here in Word, and this is one of the frustrations that I have, is that it's a little bit inconsistent, this tool, across the Office suite. But over here in Microsoft OneNote, if I click on OneNote and go to View, we have the Immersive Reader tool, and this is probably the best implementation of the Immersive Reader tool because it started in OneNote, so this is probably the most advanced version. And you can see here in this version, it's gone to full screen. It's a really good, simple appearance. I can still change the text preferences, so the screen background and font size and those sorts of things. But when I have this text read to me here, you can hear that that text is being read to me with an Australian English accent. So it's not only giving me all of the reading options and that focus, but it's also sounding local to me, and that's a little bit better than that computerized voice. In Microsoft OneNote, we can even go further with the text. It's not just syllables, but we can break the text down into nouns, verbs, and adjectives, those things. And we can even see the labels on top of those. So we can really break down the text and hopefully understand that text a little bit better. And certain words here, if I can find an example, even have a picture dictionary attached to them. So you can see that I can click on speaker and I can see a couple of visual representations of that. I'm going to exit the reader and just finally show you that that reader is also available as a plugin in Microsoft Edge, the latest version of Microsoft Edge on Chrome. In fact, it's not a plugin, sorry, it's built into the browser. And so if I find a page that has readable text like this one here, I can simply have it read back to me. Very similar tools to what we saw in OneNote there, read aloud. And once again, that's an American accent because the content is published in the US language. So that's how learning tools works across the Office suite. And in particular, we're talking about the Immersive Reader part of that. Now, the way I use this tool, I've been using it with my kids a lot. I have two who are in younger grades at school. I'm just going to switch out of that. And what I do is sometimes we might get a block of text and we take a photo of that block of text and put it into OneNote. And then OneNote can actually recognize the text inside the picture. And so we can have that text read back to us using that tool. There's tools there to adjust the speed of the reading as well. So sometimes we turn the speed way up high and we just simply have the text read to us very quickly. And we can see and hear and read the text all at the same time. So it helps us to really process text. And although this tool was clearly designed for people who have issues with dyslexia, it's become a far more useful tool than that. And I think it really is useful to anybody who is learning English, whether that be a young student or somebody learning English as a second language. And even for me, to be honest. All right. So the next tool that I want to share with you is called Dictate. And this is found in the Microsoft Office suite. So Dictate takes your spoken words, of course, and it types them up for you. I don't know about you, but over time, my keyboard skills, I think they've been declining. And I guess I probably should invest a bit more time in upgrading them. But when you think about the keyboard as a form of input, it's really not ideal. The QWERTY keyboard was designed over 140 years ago. And yes, it's true, it's still by far the most widely used method of typing text, but it's clunky. What I'm trying to create, when I'm writing, when I'm brainstorming, when I'm thinking, I don't really feel like the keyboard's on my side. And if you had a mobility issue that limited the use of your 10 fingers, you'd probably feel much the same. So this tool was a long time coming, but I want to show you this in a Microsoft Word document. You'll find this across the Office suite. There's a Dictate button right on the toolbar at the top. And all I have to do is click on that to start typing. So let's give it a try. Now, in my job, I write a lot of scripts, and those scripts are usually coming from ideas that are in my head. It's much easier for me to get these ideas down on the page using my voice than it is with the keyboard. Some of you might say, but I can type faster than I can speak. And that could be true, but it's usually only true when somebody else is doing the speaking. How do we go? Now, when I'm using this tool, I will use the keyboard and mouse to go back and do a bit of an edit. I tend not to worry about full stops and all of that sort of stuff. You can use those commands in the Dictate tool, but I don't. I just get the text down and then I'll go back and do an edit later on. But check yourself next time. Think about how fast you can type. Can you type from thoughts in your head faster than you can speak? You might be surprised at the results. I think in most cases that your typing speed is really limited to the speed of dialogue in your head. So using Dictate doesn't really have a speed disadvantage when we're typing our thoughts. It does, of course, have a disadvantage in that it's more noisy than a keyboard. So it really is something that only works if you're in a quiet place. But give it a try if you haven't already, especially while we've got this downtime where we're working from home, and see if it helps you to express your thoughts more fluently. Handwriting, well, actually, I should just say that I did say that this was in all Office applications. Dictate is in Word, Excel and PowerPoint, Outlook and OneNote, but it isn't currently in Teams, which I think is a bit of a sore point. Hopefully Teams are working on this as we speak, so to speak, and we should see Dictate in there soon. All right, the next tool that I want to share with you is Handwriting Recognition. Now, I remember in the very early days of tablet PCs, speaking to a lady who suffered from severe RSI, and this really restricted her ability to use a keyboard. So handwriting recognition stood out as a tool for her that could help her situation. Later on, I met a team that worked with students with dysgraphia. I'd never heard of dysgraphia, and apparently they don't call it that anymore, by the way. It's often associated with dyslexia, but it's known as difficulty expressing thoughts in writing. Now that team there, they found a solution using some of those really early tablets that only had a digital pen. and they used the handwriting tool that was built into Windows, and it could recognize their kids' handwriting even when they had dysgraphia. So for them, the ability to convert their handwriting to typed text was a real bonus. These days, voice-to-text tools would also be really helpful for kids with dysgraphia or anybody. Now, I don't have dysgraphia, and you might object to that. You might correct me because when you see my handwriting, but handwriting recognition was really one of the most important access tools in my life, because when I was at school, I was never particularly organized with paper. I love to draw and doodle. I take lots of notes, but I'd often lose the paper that I wrote the notes on. So later in life, when I discovered a computer that you could write on, it made a lot of sense to me. I've always found that it made more sense to take notes with a pen than it did with a keyboard. And over the years, I've discovered a lot of research that supports that conclusion. A number of studies have concluded that handwriting supports better memory and understanding than typing with a keyboard. So handwriting recognition is a really important tool, and it comes in two forms in Windows, and it uses the same underlying technology. So let's have a look at the first tool. I'll just bring up a blank document here. This is it, sorry. Too many windows open. Okay. So key thing is here, I'm using my Surface Studio to do this, and the mode that I'm writing in is not the best right now because my screen's upright. But when I click on the Windows keyboard icon with my pen, I get this handwriting tool pop up on the screen. And this will convert my handwriting to typed text. As I said, it's not something that's specific to Surface. This is a Windows 10 feature. But what it does is it allows me to type into any application. I'm using Word here as an example, but with my handwriting, I can type. So that has particular uses in a lot of places. I've seen people use this tool when they're walking around and working. So people who are maybe doing inspections, those sorts of things out on site, they're carrying a tablet or a slate in one hand and they're writing and typing with the pen. I don't use this variation of the tool that much because this tool and this technology is built into other programs like Microsoft OneNote. So personally, when I work with handwritten notes, I'm just going to switch screens here. You can see this is actually how my talk today started out, as a scribbled out note, and I'll leave my handwritten notes as handwritten notes in OneNote. But if I wanted to, clicking on the Draw tab at the top, I could go and convert my handwritten notes there to typed text using that feature there, and it will take everything that I've written and thereabouts it'll convert everything. I might need to do a bit of editing, but most of the time I've just pressed undo to get back to that. I will leave my handwritten notes as handwritten notes on my digital piece of paper, and the beauty of this handwriting recognition technology is that it makes all of my notes searchable. So searching for the word focus here in OneNote, you can see that it's found that within my scribbles there. So for me, this is a really important tool because it takes my somewhat illegible handwriting and it can present it into a form that somebody else can read. So it's a really important access tool, and it's important to share it and be aware of it. Okay. The next tool that I wanted to share with you is on a different tack. It's the Microsoft Editor. So we all remember the spell check and grammar tools that are built into Word. I'm going to switch across to Word here, and I'll show you that up in the top right corner, there is now, in the latest versions of Office 365 and Word, an editor button. So this one here opens up a tool that certainly does your spell and grammar checking, but it also analyzes your document for things like clarity, formality, repeated phrases, different vocabulary as well. So it's a really advanced tool, and you can even change the settings on this tool and go in there and maybe choose tools like inclusive language and things like that you can analyze your text for. So I've done that here on my document. So this is the script of my talk today. And if I click on vocab, you can see that it's suggested that I make a change here, and it's given me the full reasons why. So again, for students, this is a really important tool, but I've found that this tool is important for me as well, because I want to improve the quality of my writing, and I want to improve the quality of my scripts and my speaking as well. So you can use this tool to think about taking out, removing words. It's a really good friend of the edit, this tool. Now, it's not just here in Microsoft Word. You can also get this tool in Microsoft Edge as a plugin and also in Google Chrome as a plugin. So if you wanted to check your work in Google Docs or any other tool, you can use this using your web browser. Lots of screens to go through. So that's the Microsoft Editor. The next tool that I wanted to share with you is PowerPoint Captions. This is a really amazing tool, and it's obviously there for accessibility, but it can be there for far more than that. Let's escape this PowerPoint presentation. And what I wanted to show you, I'm going to restart this PowerPoint presentation. There is a tick box here for you if you have, again, a M365 subscription and the latest version of PowerPoint. You can click on slideshow and you can tick this box that says always use subtitles. So this came to PowerPoint sometime last year. Let me just start this presentation again so you can see it in action. You need to be connected to the internet, of course, but when you're presenting, what you say appears across the bottom of your slides as subtitles. So this is a really important tool for people with hearing difficulties, but it can be for everybody because it's another tool that can help us to just immerse ourselves in the content and stay focused. Did pretty well. I'll just escape that. What we can also do with captions or subtitles in PowerPoint is have our subtitles appear in a different language. So if I wanted to, instead of having my English subtitles, I can now have Japanese subtitles. And from what I understand, I don't speak Japanese, anything more than basic travel Japanese at least, but these are not literal translations. Rather, they're AI-powered smart translations. You'll notice that the text, well, I lost the connection there, but the text actually changes as I speak and based on the context of the sentence. So from what I've heard from other people, it does a reasonable job of computer translation. I'm going to change this back to English. So you can see that you can very quickly switch back and forward between language. But if you want to, you can go even further with this, because what I've got over here on the right-hand side of this feature, you may not have this because this is a plugin called Microsoft Translator. It's something that you can download from the Microsoft website, and it enables you to take this translation feature and stream it in a different way. Rather than just having my translations coming up on the bottom of the screen, what this feature does is it puts a QR code into your slide deck at the beginning, and people can scan that QR code and bring up an app on their screen, or a website, in fact, on their screen, that is streaming the captions in their specific language. There's 60 different languages that PowerPoint can access. So they could be streaming, you could have 5 people in your audience streaming into 5 different languages, thanks to that translation plugin that you can get for PowerPoint. So back into my presentation here. We'll see how these captions go through the rest of the presentation. Now, I demonstrate this feature a lot. I was at a school training earlier in the year when we could be doing face-to-face training, and I was showing year 8 to 10 students in lots of different classes that this feature existed in PowerPoint. And they were consistently blown away by this feature. It's pretty hard to get kids excited about stuff, but they were really excited about this. Now, surprisingly, Google Slides doesn't have this feature. So I think it's really important that teachers know about this one and they can find it in PowerPoint. The thing is, again, when people can't hear clearly, they're unlikely to tell us. I was on a call last year where the quality of the call was really bad. And what happened during that call is I couldn't hear something. So I said, sorry, guys, I didn't catch that. And they repeated what they said. And I still didn't hear it. So I said again, sorry guys, still didn't catch that. What do you think I did on the 3rd time? I just didn't ask anymore. And I never understood what they said. I didn't catch it. And so it was lost. In a presentation situation, people are very unlikely to jump into the spotlight by saying, hey, can you please repeat that? So if you can use this feature in PowerPoint, maybe you can help those people. It's not going to be a perfect translation. It's probably made some mistakes already for me now, but it's better than nothing at all. The next feature that I wanted to show you, in fact, I can't really show you this one, but it's Microsoft, or it's Windows Hello, sorry. Thinking about entering a password on your computer multiple times a day, it's a complete pain for most of us. But imagine if you had to do that without a keyboard over and over again. Well, with Windows Hello, you don't have to think about entering your password. On devices that have this capability, they have an infrared face scanning camera built in, and so your face becomes your password. Windows Hello can also be used with fingerprint readers and other devices, but that face recognition is a huge bonus for access. I won't be able to demonstrate it to you today, but just Google that one, Windows Hello. If you don't have a device with a Windows Hello camera in it, you need to look for one in your next device. All of the Surface models, for example, do have that Windows Hello capability built in, which is brilliant. And if you're not using it yet, you probably should turn it on. If you don't want to turn it on, think about how many times a day you type in your password, and then maybe reconsider that. All right. The next tool that I wanted to share with you, and I've got some slides to demonstrate this one, is Office Lens. This is a brilliant piece of technology that should be on all of your mobile devices, phones and tablets. It's a camera app that's really integrated into Office 365. So this is an example of the Office Lens app on Android, and you can see here it's a camera app. It's taking a photo of this particular whiteboard. And hopefully what you can see here is that using a bit of AI, Office Lens, has found the edges of that whiteboard. So Office Lens effectively allows you to scan a business card, a document, or a whiteboard using that camera. And with that AI detection, basically it takes the photo that you've taken and the important bit of it and turns it into a perfect scan, as you can see here with this whiteboard. So it's a tool that enables people to bring in content from the physical world into the digital world. Now, I use it every day for capturing photos of my receipts and documents that people give me. But you can imagine how important this is as an access tool. If I was able to take a piece of paper and put it onto a tablet or a computer and then maybe zoom in on the text, I might be able to read it, whereas normally I wouldn't be able to zoom in on that piece of paper. When you use Office Lens, it allows you to upload your content into OneNote or OneDrive, and in both of those locations, the text of the content, the document, the text of the receipt or the document that you photographed will become searchable. And if you use Microsoft OneNote to capture that document there, I think I've drawn something rude, sorry. That one there will actually allow you to copy the text out of the document. So that's a really helpful tool. So if you don't have Office Lens, please get it on your mobile device and start using it. It's a great piece of assistive technology. So the last feature that I wanted to demonstrate today is voice and touch input in Windows. Now we've already talked about Dictate in Word and Excel and PowerPoint and all of those other tools. It's in Outlook as well, not in Teams. But there is a way to type text into Teams or into any other program using your voice, and that's with Windows. So let me go and bring up my touch keyboard here and an example document. Here we go. So down in the bottom right hand corner of my Windows device, I click on the keyboard there. And one of the tools that you'll see here in the touch keyboard is the microphone icon. So if I clicked on the microphone icon there, I can type with my voice. But the beauty is you don't have to open the touch keyboard to access this one. There is a keyboard shortcut for this one, which is the Windows key and the H key. So if I were to type that on my keyboard, you can see that it brings up a toolbar right at the top of the screen that I can move around. And that's what's driving this voice to text feature for me, into any program. So if you're working in Google Docs or Teams, you can now use dictation in Windows using your voice. So I'm going to close that down. And while we're talking about alternative input, I'll just spend a bit of time on this touch keyboard here as well. So you can see with this touch keyboard, like any other touch keyboard, we're all familiar with using them. But in Windows terms, you know, this has come a long way, this keyboard, since the old days of the on-screen keyboard or OSK.exe, as some of us geeks will remember. With the touch keyboard now in the top left corner, you've got lots of different options, and we've already seen or layout styles. You've already seen the handwriting recognition keyboard that we used before, but with this, I can do swipe typing. So that's handy. And also, if I press and hold on one of the keys there, you can access other keys. For example, numbers across the top row of keys there can be accessed by swiping directly up. So if you're looking for an accented character, maybe you want to type cafe with the little diacritic mark, the little hat on the E, you could do that by pressing and holding on the keyboard. It's not very easy to do that on a physical keyboard, is it? So a touch keyboard actually has some advantages over a physical keyboard. Interesting point, here in Australia, and I probably assume in New Zealand as well, we use the English US keyboard layout. We don't use the English UK keyboard layout because the UK keyboard has a pound symbol instead of a dollar symbol. So that can trip people up sometimes when they're setting up their computers if they select the English UK keyboard layout. But here in a touch keyboard, we can actually swap this into all sorts of different languages. So if I wanted to type in French, I can actually use the French keyboard layout. And that's something that you can't do with a physical keyboard, is quickly swap it into a different language, but you can with a touch keyboard. So you'll see there across the top row in a French keyboard, it's an AZERTY layout. So we can adjust these layouts to suit the language that we want to enter data in very quickly, and that's an advantage of a touch keyboard. And that enables more access, of course. But also in the bottom left-hand corner, I should say, there's a button there to access symbols. So I've got a question for you. How do you type in a degree symbol on an English US keyboard? Now, if there's an engineer in the audience, they would go, yeah, it's Alt 0176, right? That's actually a way to type in a degree symbol. So they'll remember that key code or that ASCII code for that character. But for the rest of us, that's probably unlikely. We're probably not going to remember that. So down here in the bottom left corner, you can toggle the symbol set here. And with a touch keyboard, you can actually access more symbols than you could on a physical keyboard. Currency symbols, copyright symbols, all of those sorts of things are there. And yes, we could do this through Word using insert symbol, but we can do this in any program using the inbuilt Windows touch keyboard. So there's some cool stuff there. There's some cool ways that enables access in any application. All right. Get back to my slide deck. So those were my 10 tools that I wanted to share with you today. So thank you very much for listening in. But one last thought here. Over the last several years, I've spent a lot of time training people on Windows and devices. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is to never assume. For example, I was once called in to train, a couple of years ago now, but to train one of Australia's most senior government executives up in Canberra. And being a senior executive, you can imagine that this person was on the other side of 40, like me. And your optometrist will tell you that once you hit 40, your eyesight goes downhill. So it can be a real struggle for people to interact with computers as we age. Now, the problem for this person was that they couldn't see the keys clearly on their Surface Book. Because if you've ever seen a Surface Book, the keys are silver. And the backlight on their keyboard was turned on. So there wasn't a lot of contrast between the keys on the keyboard. Now, you can imagine this is such an important engagement. I had 2 IT people there. I had a coordinator and a couple of EAs in the room, all supporting me to do this little engagement. And you can't imagine the joy that this guy had when he found that he could just simply turn the backlight off on the keyboard when I showed him those keys. He could suddenly read the keyboard and see what he was looking for, especially learning a new keyboard layout. But afterwards, one of the IT guys, they couldn't believe it either. They said to me, we could have showed him that, we didn't need to get you in just for that. And it's true, they could have showed him that feature, but they didn't get a chance to because they didn't ask the question. Now, that's not a judgment on them, because in that case, it was probably just due to the nature of the relationship. When you're going up to the big boss, you don't want to ask the dumb questions sometimes. It was easier for someone like me to come in and ask that question. But the key lesson here, and I've repeated this many times, is don't assume that people know about these tools. If you're already familiar with the accessibility features that we've shared today, then great, that's fantastic. But don't assume that others know about them too. you never know when these accessibility tools might help somebody that you know. All right, so thank you very much for joining in. I'm going to check the Q&A in just a moment now. And I'm just going to remind you that there's a competition here, and this slide is here for you. I'll leave it up for a few seconds. If you want to join in that competition, please do so. And I will move on to just the last sponsor slides. I want to thank the sponsors for putting on this event, and thanks to them for inviting me to present to the team at the M365 event. Really appreciate the opportunity. So, and I've got some good questions here. So I'm going to go and answer these questions. I'll jump across and perhaps get a clean desktop to do this in. All right. This is an exception, the way I'm using virtual desktops here today. It's a bit weird, but Cairo has shared that it's a good cheat for parents helping kids learn the language, learn the parts of language. It is a fantastic cheat for teaching kids to read, that immersive reader feature I'm sure that Cairo was talking about at that point. Now, somebody has asked as well, hey, I don't have this icon on the desktop on the system tray area of my Windows device. So that's quite common that you will not have that device, and it's usually because you have a keyboard plugged into your device. So Windows assumes that if you've got a keyboard attached, you don't need this, all right? So if you want to see it while your keyboard is still attached, what you do is you right click somewhere on the taskbar here, and you go to this one here, show touch keyboard button. If you turn that one on and tick that while your keyboard is attached, you will see that button at all times. So hope that one helps. Cool. You found it already before I did that. All right, thanks, Cairo, for your feedback as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now to change 15 different desktops. And I'll share those slides again for the session. Okay. All right. Any other questions there? Okay. And no worries. All right. Well, thank you all for joining in. Thank you to Debbie for running the session for me as well, and your support. And good luck with those accessibility features, guys. Cheers.